Yo, what's up, everybody? Today we have an updated Dan or Daniel Hooker created fighter with the blonde hair and updated tattoos. I was looking for someone to do this, and I heard from one of the pros in the community that he was really tough to pull off. This is not perfect by any means, but I think this is a very solid attempt, and it kind of does look like him a little bit, but I think it's actually pretty good for how I did. For fighter type, kickboxer, acrobat is what I gave him. Really, any kickboxer, any boxer really can even give him balanced if you really wanted to. It doesn't make a difference if I'm being honest, at least for me. General info. I think he weighed in at 156 his last fight, but if I do that, it'll bump him to welterweight, so you'll want to keep it at 155 if you want to keep in the lightweight. Also, with the actual in-game Daniel Hooker, I believe he's classified as a featherweight, but can fight as a lightweight, so you don't have to really worry about them crossing paths in career mode or anything like that. First name, Dan. You could put Daniel, but I think he's going by Dan right now. Daniel also works. Hooker, it's in the game. So you can just scroll down to select it. It'll give you the audio. They didn't have Hangman, so I gave him Hangmaker. Give him whatever you like, I guess. Social media at is Dan Hangman, which I believe is his actual Instagram. Auckland, New Zealand, which is his actual birthplace, currently 33. I believe he's an Orthodox. If he's a Southpaw, just simply change it to Southpaw. For posture, I went with TJ Dillashaw. Let's see if it'll let me show what I want to show. Yeah, like this. This is basically how he looks like in-game. They don't have his actual posture in the game. I looked, and it would be right here, and it's just not. You can change it up. I think I started off by giving him Joanna Jędrzejczyk, which isn't horrible looking. I think I also mess around with Jessica Andrade. So just kind of play around with it, see what you like. But right now I gave him TJ Dillashaw because it kind of matched his in-game model. Walkout music, select what you like. I didn't choose to select anything there. For appearance, we'll start with the hair. There's a couple that you could have gone with that I was kind of messing with. I opted to go with 31. I did think 35. There's another one here that I thought fit him somewhat well. I mean, I guess 47 you could also go with, but it's more like a mullet look. He doesn't really have a mullet. 34 was the other one I was heavily debating on. So, if you kind of like this look more, have at it. But like I said, I ultimately opted to go with 31. I might change it to 34 every now and then. But those were the two that I really liked. You could go 35 also. But anything outside of that is really the only ones that I would choose personally. For eyebrows, I went with eyebrow 4. You can kind of play around with this, especially if you're really good with filling in the eyebrows. You can really kind of just pick whatever. Like it's like I went with brows 4. Facial hair 10. He has a little bit of facial hair, but nothing major. I guess you could go with facial hair 1. You can kind of see the outline of the facial hairs. But ultimately, I just left it default at 10. Body hair, I didn't give him anything. If I did, it would probably just be on his arms, but outside of that, I didn't do anything. For hair color, I went with light blonde. I tried dark blonde, but it doesn't quite pop like his actual hair does. And silver just looks like he's 60 years old, so light blonde is really the only option here. Right, like, just as a side note, I never understood why they called this rainbow. If you really want to get funky with it, and, like, want to give them, like, like he looks like when he's got blood in his hair, maybe you could opt for rainbow. I don't know. But, or if you just want to get goofy with it and give him whatever kind of hair color just because you really can, have at it. But you really should only be rocking the light or dark blonde, but whatever. Eyebrows, I went with black. I think you could go with dark brown or even light brown. I don't really know if it makes a difference, if I'm being honest. Maybe light brown. But one of those three, I guess I really haven't looked deep into it. Facial hair, black. I guess you could go like dark brown. It makes it stand out a little bit more. The light brown, not so much. Obviously, like the blonde is kind of gonna blend it in a little bit, but I guess you could go dark blonde if you want to have it pop a little bit more. Body hair was default. So this is what I ultimately tried to go with for his head template. I went with 9. Now, there was a couple that I kind of debated. Anywhere from like 9 to 13, maybe. I know he kind of looks like a monkey head, as I like to say. But really, 9 I thought worked really well. I think I messed a little bit with 12. And I might have messed with like 6. But anything really in this range, I feel like is a pretty decent attempt at it. I really tried, like 37 I might have messed with too. I forget, but I really try to go for the look of his nose. And I'll tell you right now, I didn't quite hit the mark on it, but I came pretty close. His nose is a little bit more in on the tip of his nose. It's not really like rounded on the tip of his nose. It's more like squished together, if that makes sense. So really, any of these, I would go with. I didn't really mess with this. I guess you could if you really wanted to. I mean, even if I knock these down a little bit or up a little bit, I don't really see that big of a change. Oh, excuse me, my apologies. I don't really see a change to his face all that much, so I'm just gonna leave him at 50. Feel free to mess around with it if you have a little bit more experience. Brows, I didn't mess with at all. Eyes, I didn't mess with. Cheeks, all you're really trying to do is get them indented, really, so they're not really standing out, if that makes sense. So, you don't really want to notice them, I guess that you would say. It's more like his side of his face more than it was their actual cheeks, if that makes sense. Ears, I guess you could extend them a little bit. I wish we could mess with the outer half, like a width or something, to kind of shape them a little bit better. If I want to have them stick out a little bit. But nose, I didn't mess with too much because I thought his default nose was actually pretty good. If I could get just the tip of his nose without, like, the nostrils and all that being affected, then I think his nose would be perfect. But if you're familiar with noses and kind of think you can do a better job, by all means, go for it. I would love to see your guys' version of this CAF. Jaw, kind of the same thing. You don't really want it drooping down kind of thing. You really kind of want to have it close to his mouth, I guess. I know, it's weird to say, but you kind of see where it's highlighted. You don't want it sticking out too much, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at there. Chin, I guess you could straighten, or you could not straighten this. You could shorten it like, bring it in a little bit. I don't really see a big difference. I mean, I guess a little bit now. So maybe something like this, all 43. I guess you kind of get the vibe of it, though. Mouth didn't really feel like I needed to, mess with anything. Same with lips. I don't trust myself enough with some of these on some of them, so I just kind of leave it be. Going over to the eyes, I'm gonna be honest, I think he has green eyes. I wasn't able to get a clear-cut picture reference where I could see not like just his eyes. They might be like a light brown, or I think like a light green, dark green maybe. They might even be brown, but I have to go with green. If you actually know his eye color, then obviously you'll want to set it to that, but... Okay, but why does, just a side note, why does bright blue kind of work well with this? For no reason. I don't know. Anyways, so that's what I did for that. For the body, you could go quite a few different ways. I thought about body 3 here, but it doesn't really work with the head shape. I'm gonna be honest. Body 5 was another option I looked at. 6. 11 was one that was actually a finalist for me. 10 I thought was a little too shredded in the abs, but you could make that work. 8 might, like, really any of these, like, top to mid ones, and some of these lower ones. So I would say, like, anywhere between 2 and 15, you could kind of go with, kind of pick and choose. I just opt to go with 4. Kind of looks the best, but again, mess around with it. Go with one that you actually like. Like, I actually don't hate body 5. So, skin, tone 1. You could go tone 2, if you want them a little darker. Or you can just stick with tone 1 and do body tattoos to make his skin color a little darker. You don't really want to go anything outside of 1 or 2, though. Because then once you get 3, you're getting too dark. Or if you want them a little bit darker on 2, then obviously body tattoos. Speaking of tattoos, there's really not much here. Shape 126, I'm gonna be honest with you, I did a horrible job with. You're really just supposed to fill in the eyebrows a little bit. But with kind of how this is angled, you kind of have to fill in the bottom portion too, it kind of seems like. So, kind of mess around with it. You might be able to place these better than I do. Sometimes I can get them, like, really spot on, and other times I completely fail at them. So, if you can do them better, please do them better. You could also opt... I know his in-game model has... like, a little... He's kind of dark around, like, the mouth and the jaw. He kind of has that shadow type of feel. So you could add, like, a shape 181, kind of like I'm showcasing here, and kind of give him that dark shadow type vibe to his skin. I'm opting not to go that route, but I guess that's just an option if you would like. Going to his back tattoo, this, for me, was a little tricky. This is from... It shows a great picture on his Instagram. This, Angels and Demons 13, was, like, a good base. You know, you're able to place it. See if I can kind of show it off here on the lower back a little bit. Like, it has a good starting is what I was gonna say. Starting is what I meant to say. Shape to it, where it's kind of got that square shape to it. So all you're really doing is stretching it for pretty much the upper half of his back and shoulder blades. This one can be a little bit tricky to do because you don't want it sticking out like this. You can kind of see it and by the collarbone how it's sticking out. It can be tricky to place in size. I've done this quite a few times trying to get it fairly well. Like here, it looks really good. So it really just depends on your placement skills. Even if I don't adjust it here, it looks really good, but now that I'm looking at it, I feel like it needs to cover a little bit more. So I might opt to go with, like, something like, I don't know, something. Nah, because I can still see a little part of the tattoo. So you just really have to play around with it and your placement ability. Once you get that down, you'll be okay. I don't really think it's that hard of a tattoo to do. Especially, if I'm just... See, like, you could make it like this, but it does kind of stretch onto, like, the back of his shoulders kind of thing. So, maybe go something like that. I'll save it like that for right now. Just kind of play around with it. And then, Skull's 10, it does start off like this, so you'll want to flip it and kind of go with it. I just kind of shrinked it to kind of right about the middle that's inside of the tattoo itself. Because on the original tattoo, it's a samurai head, pretty much. I think I originally opted to go with something else. I'm trying to see if I can find it here. I forget what I tried to go with. But if you have a different, I guess, backdrop or a background piece that you like better or think that fits better, be my guest. There was one piece that I kind of liked that was kind of like, oh yeah, this piece. It's just, if it was just the character itself, then I might opt to go with it. However, with that being said, because this tattoo is so easy to do for me, I'm gonna delete it. If you want to do this just as an entire piece, you actually kind of probably can. If I'm being honest, now that I'm kind of looking at it, you actually could do this just as one whole piece. And that actually is not a bad option now that I'm looking at it, and it kind of fits the back kind of well. I guess I didn't think about doing it like this. L Creator, and it's still showing a little bit. So just kind of adjust it a little bit, and you actually might be able to get away with this. See, like, now it's a little off center for me, and then... So, if you want to go this route, which I kind of do, low-key, you could kind of mess with how it looks or whatever, you could go that route. So, whichever you prefer, be my guest and go for that. Either look, it kind of does work. Arm tattoos, I do not believe he has any. If he does, then I missed them. Left leg and right leg are the exact same tattoos. Tribal 11, or Celtic, however you want to pronounce it. The only thing with these to keep in mind is it won't fit the entire leg for how it's supposed to be done. That's why there's two of them here. You want to leave space open at, like, the front and side of his calf on purpose, but you also want to make sure you can get it down to the feet as much as you possibly can. I know it doesn't go right over the top of the foot like you would like, but, like, here you can kind of see it's on top of the foot. And then the same thing on the other side. They will end up overlapping each other, as you kind of see here. Unless you can find a way to, like, go like this with them and not have the, center of it open. Again, you want to kind of leave that open a little bit, so they're going to tend to overlap. Same thing, you want to get back down on the foot and ankle if you can. Same thing on the other leg, nothing fancy to it. For those that care about clothing, this is what I opted for. I again went off his his in-game model, and I took inspiration from his Octagon interview after his fight with Jalen Turner, which was his last fight where he won by decision. So, if you want to go black, go for it. And why does the black seem like a little bit longer? I don't know. But white, black doesn't really make a difference. UFC gloves, I don't see why you would go with anything else unless you are trying to make him goofy looking. I guess you could go with the white or just the basic black, but let's be honest, UFC is really the only option. Mouse guard, you could go with Australia, UFC, teeth, fangs. I guess you could go to UK if you're really feeling weird or whatever. Shark's not a bad option. Sporty's not horrid either. Carbon backyard. Really, any mouth guard that you really want. I would stay away from definitely Brazil, Mexico, UK, USA, France, and tap out. So I said Glover. Clover. So really kind of take your pick on that. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys. I hope I did an okay job. Let me know in the comments. Also, if you have some requests, feel free to link those down in the comments also. I'll try to get to some of them if I can and think they are doable. Thanks for watching. Check out my other CAFs here on the channel. I try to do a mix of UFC, Bellator, PFL, one championship, anything like that. So if you are interested in those are on the channel as well. If you're looking for recommendations, I really, really, really love my Robert Wilkinson one that I did a little bit a while back, and I also like my Stamp Fairtex, which was the first one that I went with and tried to do. Those would be my two recommendations. But without further ado, you guys get out of here, get to working on this created fighter, and hopefully you enjoyed.